with CEOs and with COOs about, what is marketing? What is the difference between marketing and sales? And I started to just sort of recognize some patterns that I wanted to come in and help. Like, for example, a lot of organizations, when they are scaling, the first people they end up hiring are business development or sales reps. This marketing is kind of an afterthought way down the line. And when marketers are finally hired, they tend to be brought in more at a junior level. And so a lot of them feel like order takers because they're kind of coming into this tactical execution role. They wait to be told what to do by the CEO or by the sales team. And so, over time, that might serve them for the first, 6 to 9 months. But over time, they want to step into something greater, right? They want to contribute more to the organization. They want to have more influence, and that's what I started noticing, kind of this credibility gap, and that really their opinions weren't valued within the organization, because they had not yet established that credibility. They weren't doing the part to really understand the business, to understand customers, to understand how the sales process works. So that's what I've been doing over the past year, is to really help marketers elevate to that level and really bridge the gap. CEOs want this. The CEOs want to be able to rely on their marketing team and to give them that power and that influence and a seat at the table. But marketers need to rise to that occasion too. So I'm kind of helping really be the bridge between the executive team and the marketing organization to get that to become more level.
Okay, makes sense. And Beverly, so great to have you again. Looks like
Great.
we've got our camera working.
Yeah, somehow, however, it's switched. I can't go straight, but I will figure this out. Okay.
Not a problem. Well, anyways, Beverly, you have
Uh, First of all, I want to, it's great to meet you, Stacey. And pretty well, all of us talk a different language, but we're saying the same thing, really. Um, it's about credibility. It's about knowing, liking, trusting. And we've been talking about this in different ways. Um, you know, Bob Berg talks about it. Everyone talks about that factor. And it goes right down to the human condition. And that's really where I am at. I call myself a reinvention expert, but what it really is going right back to the basics to be able to cut out all that clutter and get the confidence to be able to stand in your own space and say, this is who I am. And yes, I believe very much so, Stacey, that women have a big problem with that.
Yeah.
And credibility today, particularly in business, and everyone is a brand, really. We represent who we are. And whether we're selling widgets or whether we're selling cars or whether we're coaching, people have to get to know, like, and trust what brand we stand for. And what's interesting out there is there are so many studies. I mean, it goes back and back and back, but I don't know if anybody has heard of the what's it called? The Edelman barometer,
Trust. Mm-hmm.
trust barometer. Yeah, that is fabulous. It comes out. It's a worldwide barometer of trust and credibility between brands, and we tend to just take a look at a brand, like Tracy was saying, and marketing is really where it's at. You have to have trust in that brand to be able to go out and get it. And when I was just looking ages ago at that barometer, um, what keeps on coming up all the time is the Band Aid brand. And how many times do we just go to Band Aid, although there were cheaper kinds of Band Aids out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we know that that's the one to trust. So credibility matters in everything we do. And if we don't feel confident in ourselves, we cannot represent whatever those brands are. And I think, and I don't know if you'll agree with me, Stacey, but it's harder and harder today to fit into your authentic self because people keep on saying, well, you should look like this, or you should act like this.
Mhm.
Or, as I was talking to you, Dawn, when, I was coming on, and maybe I should wear a hat too. And then I said to myself, no, I shouldn't wear a hat because I wear hats all the time. I love hats, but I'm in my home right now. I've taken off my hat. And, okay, so my hair wasn't what I'd like it to be, but this is who I am. And you have to know, like, and trust. And, that's up to you to trust and to like, but definitely this is who I am. And we all have to speak to that. And that's why I just love this word, because credibility today is really, really hard to find and hard to be when you're
Yeah.
expected to be so many things.
Well, I think you both make so many quality points, and it's hard to be credible in a less than credible environment, right? So if you don't know what you can trust as far as information or
Mhm.
people, how do you relate to it in a credible way when you're starting out with somewhat of a mystery to it? And that gives people pause and maybe makes them a little more reserved, maybe a little bit more opaque, because everybody's dancing the who are you and what do you want. And
Mhm.
to your point, Beverly, when you know, like, and trust someone, and shows like this, where you see someone every day, all the time, you can learn who they are by how they work with other people, how they react or respond to situations. And that's how you buy some vowels before you have to solve that puzzle. But at the same time, if you can achieve credibility, you've got a distinction and differentiation that is attractive, because now you can just work on what you want to work on, right? Instead of who you have to be able to
Mhm.
work. And then, it works in your favor and against you, depending on where you settle into that credibility element. So let's get our
Yeah.
audience. Again, this is second day with StreamYard, and we actually started later than we thought. So that's why the comments were a little slow. Good morning, Kelly. Kelly's here all the time, and Kelly has her own show that actually is this afternoon, The Awesome Journey at 1:11 p.m. And also, we've got Tanya here. Great to see you from South Africa. Uh,
Oh.
Now I see helpful talkers. Yeah, Dennis must have been there a minute before. Thanks, Dennis. Uh, Carrie's here with his jokes. Uh,
Gary,
Harvey's here. Harvey's just one of the greatest. He actually has
yes.
his show, the franchise show, right after this show. So you've got me, Harvey, and Kelly all in a row. Dennis comes back with Rich the Bar with a barometer. If you can spell correctly, too. I am still learning. Thanks for all your help teaching us. Well, you bet, Dennis. Glad to have you in the audience as always. So, Stacey, how are you seeing the world today in the eyes of credibility?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been an interesting evolution. Like on the one hand, we all have this amazing access, as I was just saying, to be creators. We have platforms, we have social media. We don't all have to be award-winning journalists or movie producers to be able to get our word out there. I think the challenge is that with that, we have all like humans are not dumb, and so we can see somebody and we can tell on the surface we're trying to like search for something that's authentic, right? And to see find something that we have in common with people to get attracted to, whether that's the message or how this person is portraying themselves. What I have seen lately, and I think this is interesting, with generations, is that people are using the platform and maybe losing a little bit of, what does it actually mean to be authentic? What is my authentic self? And I think, as Beverly already said, we try to show up maybe how other people are on social media. We compare ourselves to other influencers or people that we're seeing. And, maybe some of that comes a little bit with age and maturity, right? That you're stepping into your own authenticity, or that you've had experiences where that have backfired on you. And so, we've all seen the cases of CEOs that portray themselves one way online, and then meanwhile they're like a tyrant running their company, and sexual harassment claims and all this other stuff happening behind closed doors within their company. And so it feels, whenever these things happen, it hits the trust for all of us, because we're like, wait a minute, are you really who you say you are? And now it's the trust building is taking longer and longer, I think, and we are a little bit more guarded with who we are willing to kind of open up to and willing to align to. So I think that's a big, I guess self-awareness would be the first thing. And am I authentic? What does that even mean? What are the values and things that I stand for? And then do we have proof points that can back these things up? So for example, corporate values. A lot of companies, say we have these specific core values that we want to run our company by. But then you got to look in the mirror at some point and really say, are we really doing that? Are we really hiring people with these specific values? Do we really have proof points or action items behind some of these core values, and are we living them? That's just kind of on the employee side and how the business is run. On the customer side, it's about the value proposition, right? A lot of companies out there, and I've done a bunch of research with a couple of my colleagues on what we call the sea of sameness, and how companies are just kind of copying and pasting each other from the industry. So they copy the YS statement, the value proposition. And so a customer then is automatically confused, because if they're choosing between one of 20 services and everybody's saying basically the same thing, using the same words, then we need sort of that next layer down. So one thing that is very hard for companies to do, but will automatically sort of set you apart, is to be able to measure some of those things. So if you say that you help transform lives, or that your software, helps people grow or helps your companies grow, we are also very skeptical as consumers. So we look at that and we kind of roll our eyes like, yeah, everybody says they're going to transform me, and everybody says they're going to help me grow. But the next level down then is the proof points, being able to measure and quantify that. We've helped over 4,000 people. We've, on average, our customers grow 25% after working with us for 6 months. Things like that then help it become a little bit more believable. So.
Okay, go ahead, Beverly.
And to add to testimonials, I think testimonials more than anything really give credibility. When clients call me and I'm referred from a friend, there's no marketing in the world can give me that. They immediately trust, they know that they like you, and they know that you're good. And so companies now marketing with testimonials left, right, and center, good testimonials and bad testimonials always work. And so not to fear being criticized, because you learn by what people tell you, and not to fear being authentic, because they learn who you are as well. And to your point, Stacey, in your office, you do have to be authentic. You have to be authentic to your brand, not only to yourself. You have to have the values, and people buy with response to their own values as well. So it has to be a match. You can't just go out into the universe and be who you are and expect people to know, like, and trust you, and step on someone's face and say to the world, I am here for you, come to me, because it's such a transparent world and people talk. And there's a cancel culture in a heartbeat. And you can build a brand and it can be destroyed just like that. And Harvey, he's selling brands. That's what the franchise show is really, I'm sure, all about. We see a product, we say, hey, I'm going to buy into that. And it has to match with our culture. And so branding is really good, but people are becoming more and more fearful and more skeptical. And with AI now, it's getting more difficult to be authentic and credible. And just wait now, there's going to be the deep fakes coming up, and you're not even going to know who you're talking to.
That's scary, right?
Yeah, it's one big masquerade party, it seems like.
That's
And,
right.
it's only getting more challenging. And I think that's
Exactly.
why everybody has to find new channels of communication to break through. And there's nothing more trusting than being in the moment with everybody else in the moment at the same time, talking directly and with everybody. And that's where I think people, especially peer to peer, can grow from because, everything is getting decentralized, which is even another shock where you used to have institutions or businesses or governments supporting you. Now you have to support yourself and
Mhm.
the institutions. You have to kind of prop them up at the same time. So again, it's like musical chairs, less chairs, faster music. Who can continue to climb to higher ground is the key. And how do you start bringing people up? Right? That's gonna, because everybody needs to get some equalization of opportunity or of hope, and I think if you can't get tangible benefit, at least maybe you can get your attitude or mindset enhanced. Let me just go through our comments. Lorraine's here. I don't know if you know Lorraine, but she's just
Yes. Hi,
wonderful.
Lorraine. Hi.
She was here just a while ago and does some amazing things. Probably like 6 months a year doing missionary work in Africa and building
Amazing.
orphanage, and then the other 6 really being a high-end speaker, author, just a great person. Somebody I'd use this opportunity to get to know. Natalie's here, great artist.
Natalie.
Just love her post. Has beautiful artwork almost every day. Kristen's here, late to the party, but so glad I could join. Stacey, you're so right. Self-awareness is so key to building trust. Dennis comes back with agree. Healthy garden grows like healthy and smart humans that do trust themselves and others. So very true. Natalie, self-awareness is the cornerstone upon which we build many facets of our personal and professional lives. And sometimes you need other people's awareness of your situation to really have a little bit more of a composite view or a consensus view.
Mhm.
And everybody looking out for everybody helps everybody. And just the knowledge you're not alone, there's support. Very well said. Great, Kristen. Elizabeth is here. Elizabeth has been here many times. I'll look forward to having Elizabeth back soon. Dennis, be original and measure up. Just don't copy others. Then you're just a copycat and not a smart dog, a smart bark. Okay, Dennis, keep plugging. AI should be used as a tool. Lorraine says,
Yeah.
you know, things that apply to people with good intent tend to do better, and just the opposite is true when you're dealing with bad intent and people. And that's why when you find a good group, when you find a trusting, liking group, work with it, build with it. Don't always look for different, because a lot of times you might be giving up better and not really knowing it. Harvey says, like a lot of words are connected, credibility and authenticity go hand in hand. I think I could add 2 more. Time and visibility hat or no hat time delivers who you're good or bad. And Lorraine comes back with hi, that's good. And to Elizabeth, why should people use AI or IA, whatever it's called, seems to human connection? It's just,
Oh,
you got to be on the front end of where things are going, and you
Yeah.
got to be able to accommodate change. You need to change just to stay even in most cases. And with that, moving back to where we were with our credibility conversation, Stacey. I know you've worked for some major companies. What do you see happening to people in those situations as applies to credibility on both sides of it?
Yeah, I mean, I like to talk about going back to like just the AI example. It's that knowledge and intelligence helps kind of become the foundation for which credibility is built. First we talked about self-awareness, that's knowledge of our own selves. And then it's about knowledge of your field or your industry or the business that you're running. So I would say for that, it's continuous learning. right? And it's really dedicating time to learn about it and not to kind of dismiss things, but to try to look for maybe the bigger patterns, right? The bigger picture to see how things are connected and what might happen. You can become kind of that go-to source. And again, it's niche down, like whatever your specific profession is, like to really just become well-versed and read in there. And I always encourage people, especially, in marketing, we are trying to connect the dots for what's happening, like in the economy, in the political landscape, in a specific industry and in technology, and kind of looking holistically at this picture and then trying to figure out how do we make that relevant to the people that we are trying to serve as our customers. And same thing with, and I think that helps kind of build credibility. Like when we understand the broader landscape or maybe somebody else's world view and how we can position ourselves as relevant, then we tend to be able to be seen as more credible, right?
Mhm.
Because we are speaking the same language as each other. So I think that's kind of a really critical, I guess, practice, is to continuously learn and to spend time, and schedule time. And that's always kind of the number one thing that I hear from people, that don't prioritize learning, is that, well, we don't have time. And so I would say that's like a foundation really to help kind of get to that next level, is to spend time gathering that knowledge and intelligence. The other piece, I think, maybe it's like with regard to larger organizations versus smaller organizations, is being able to, really the difference is just having more experience, right? And learning from these experiences and being able to reflect on it and apply it in a different way. So that you're not just doing the same thing over and over and over and getting the same results, but that you're okay to experiment and okay to fail a little bit, because you know that you're going to learn from these mistakes and to grow to the next level. And I would say that's maybe the biggest difference that I've seen working with large organizations versus smaller, solopreneurs, or people that have a side gig or a small business, is that they have more resources to be able to run experiments, and that not everything has to be perfect, that we could go spend a lot of money on a TV commercial that might fail. But hey, what do we learn about it, and what do we get from consumer sentiments and things like that? I mean, there's a million examples that we've all seen over time with really large brands that have tried something and failed. Then they go back and try to recover from it the next time. And so smaller businesses don't necessarily have that luxury. They're not going to go spend $1 million on a TV commercial, just to test it out. But it's kind of applying that same methodology of, are we willing to do a mini experiment? Can we do a pilot project? Let's test something and let's just see if it works. And if it does, great. We're going to go make that better and go all in on that. Versus, I think what I call random acts of marketing, where it's like the sprinkle effect of doing a little bit of everything. The credibility piece is built over consistency. And so, I'm a big fan of just declaring like 2 or 3 channels or 2 or 3 tactics that you can really go all in on. And the number one thing is really to be authentic, as we just talked about, but also consistent with your actions. It's not just a one-time thing. Oh, I think I'll start a podcast and I do 1 episode. No, it's like, you got to be in it for the long haul. Like this show here has been running for a while, and the consistency, Don, we talked about this, I was just admired by your dedication and consistency to showing up. And that's actually, consistency helps build that credibility, because now people know what to expect. Your actions are backing up your words. You didn't go announce something and then you don't show up. I mean, your commitment is really there. And so I think those are the critical pieces and maybe differences I've seen.
Well, those are beautiful insights and so well articulated. I hope everybody in the audience has taken notes and, some great takeaways there. Beverly, I know you're involved in transition situations, primarily with women. So how does that relate to women's empowerment? And
It's with women. It's with men too, but men do not particularly like getting into groups. So I usually work with men one-on-one. But you mentioned so many good points, Stacey. The first one, when you're talking about the big brands with the big budgets and who have an awful lot to lose, um, like their entire companies, little brands also have a lot to lose. Their homes, everything else, their life, their lifestyle. And it's a matter of testing also. And when little brands are on social media, we also have to have a budget. And we also have to play, but we play small. And I love what Kelly said, small and mighty. So you know what you're doing. And we do have to test our advertising and what posts work and what posts don't work and who do we attract. And the analytics are extremely important. And we have to watch everything that we do because everyone is watching you. And so we have to understand that as soon as you put yourself out there, you're open to criticism, which is a good thing, as we talked about, and you're also open to learning. And so we can learn from everything, whether you have a large budget and you're learning through what's going on in the marketplace, or whether you have a very small budget, you're still taking advantage of what platforms like LinkedIn has and platforms like Facebook has. They have the analytics that can tell you what's working for you. And interestingly, what you think is working for you is not necessarily what the world is thinking. So we have to say, this is larger than me. I have to give what people want. I can't give what I want to give. They may not want that.
Mm.
So what you have to do is understand what people want and or what they say, give them what they want, sell them what they need, right? So it's like people often don't know what they really need, but
Mhm.
everybody knows what they want. And so it's that unity between what does somebody want and how can I give it to you? And that's not so simple, but it takes an awful lot of testing. And you do have to have that integrity. You have to continue. You have to have a goal and you have to have a purpose and you have to have a belief that you're on the right track. And if you keep on doing it, you know what? Something is going to connect, something is going to give. And like this show from the very beginning, or my podcast, where I just had a vision. It's aging with purpose and passion. And I love stories. Hey, I'm a therapist, I'm a coach. So I know, and brands, for instance, are all about story. They're trying to get that humanity. Why are you buying Shell gasoline when you can buy this gasoline and that gasoline and any other gasoline? There are people that are loyal to the brand. So
Mhm.
the whole idea really is to not only be authentic and be your own brand, but love what you do, have a passion. And when you go for that passion, of course, I'm talking about little brands, but big brands are getting there now. Everybody's trying to go smaller. The 50s was like, whoa, everything is bigger than better. Now we're not screaming anymore. It's like, let's collaborate. Collaboration is the key. Let's get together. Let's be more powerful together and grow. And so brands are changing. And because of social media, everything is changing as to what's a brand. But
Mhm.
authenticity never changes. You are you, and you have to show up as you, and you have to be you. Otherwise, that's it. That's all. So don't be afraid of being yourself. No one
No, I
else
think,
can compete with
yeah,
that.
yeah, I think, I like that. Give them what they want, sell them what they need. And I believe, again, to Stacey's point, experience makes a difference because it gives you something as far as context, something you can relate to. And in most cases, having the right commitment, purpose, intent is a good starting point, and having a vision of what you want to achieve. Now, the only thing that separates those two poles is action and results, and then examining, reflecting. The game is always between you and yourself, right? You set the rules, you set the punishments, you give the rewards, you judge when it's a good day, when it's a bad day, but it's a day. But you feel like it's your whole world. And sometimes it's an event that seems like it's your whole world that now changes everything you were thinking, everything you were feeling. And you're just too tied into it too closely. They say usually the best investment strategy is buy a stock, put it in a drawer, and don't look at it.
Forget about it. Yep.
Yeah, because it's going to do what it's going to do. It doesn't know how much you worry or hope for it. And
Yeah.
all you do is when it wins, you're happy, but it's not going to always win. It's going to make you unhappy. So why not cut out the negativity? I was talking to a gentleman the other day who's a major speaker and gets significant money, 5 figures a speech, but starts to realize that it's like a 2-day deal, right? I get on a plane today, I fly in, get to a hotel, get a car or transportation, show up for 2 hours maybe, and have to do everything back again. I put 35 hours into this, right? If I could get 2 virtual gigs a day, and plus their life didn't stop where they left. They got to come back and pick it up and make up for the time they were gone. So it wasn't like they just redirected time. So it's really analyzing, first of all, what makes you happy. What makes you happy will keep you in the game, right? Even if you have fun just playing, just being in an arena, right? I mean, that's what sports fans do. They get into these cold, big places with 100,000 people, and they're freezing watching a football game, but they're having a ball. And they had nothing to do with it but sitting there and buying a ticket. So how much more fun can you have on the field? And everybody is on the field. Everybody can ask their next question right now. The thing you worry about, you can express in the best way possible. Again, with credible people who are there not to judge, but to support. And you'll find out you're far from being alone. As everybody gets more honest with everybody, it would be hard for someone to say, I don't know what you're talking about. You could say, I never did that or never experienced that, but I understand it because it's just like this. And you've never experienced this. So together, we can forgive each other and ourselves. And that's where you have to start, right? You can't come in and say, because of this, I've had so many people say, well, I got burned there, and from now on, I'm not doing that anymore. And I'm thinking, well, I wasn't there. I had nothing to do with it. Why does every next person have to be responsible for the last person? And you wouldn't do that if someone gave you $1 million, right? You wouldn't transfer that to everybody that you saw. So again, if not this, what? If not now, when? And if not that person, who? Right? And what is tomorrow going to do that today in front of you won't allow you to do? Right? And tomorrow never comes. So when it comes to credibility, I think people just have to have people in their lives that support their authenticity, their credibility, and are not like, how much did you make today? Or what are you spending money on? It's almost it does set you back. Stacey, I know Beverly has something to say real quick.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Beverly.
Oh, I'm dying. What I was thinking of as we were speaking, I'm thinking of a client who she has $1 million company, and she is even opening up another one. And she started her first company, the one that's over $1 million right now, and but she wanted to work at home. She was working in startups. She wanted to take care of her kids. And at 45 years old, she started this company, and she got other moms involved. And before you knew it, they grew and they grew and they grew and they grew. And she fell into doing what she wanted to do, was building her company. However, where do I come in? Believe it or not, she's fine. on the corporate level, she's fine. I don't work with companies. I work with people. People are in companies. People develop companies. People are the problem. Because what happens is she doesn't feel authentic. It's her limiting beliefs. She's doing it. She's following the motions. She does very, very well doing it, but she feels like a fraud. And that's what I'm talking about when it's putting it together for who you are, who you're expected to be, and who you want to be. It all works together. Her company, to your point, Dawn, is no fun. Oh, yes, she can spend a lot of money. She's doing really well. People think she's doing fabulously, but she gets up in the morning, puts on her business suit, goes, takes a flight, does whatever she does. She doesn't have a mom company anymore. Now what it is it's a big business and she's handling it very well. But does she feel she is? Oh no. She feels that one step and I'm out. And I'm doomed. And yes, I'll call in the experts. And yes, I will get help here, there, but I'm always treading water. And so those are the things that people come to me for. It's about building who they are, regardless of the successes that they've attained. And that is so important because unless you feel who you are, it's no fun. And yeah, so that's why I was just sitting there because I thought of her.
No, we got to keep everything going and inside. So that's great, Beverly. Stacey?
Yeah. I mean, I love that. I think a couple things. I thought Dennis in the chat said about learning from others. Agree, we need to learn from our mistakes, but also learning from others. And that really resonates with me because, I'm an advocate for finding a mentor. I mentor a lot of people, a lot of women, specifically marketers, to help them in their career, right? And that feeling of imposter syndrome and how do I gain influence and credibility, like all of it is very much related to that. And so I think mentors are, and I see sort of two schools of thought of like, well, I can't find a mentor. I can't find, does it need to be some formal relationship? And a lot of people, like, you can read a book and have a favorite author, and that could be sort of a mentor, right? That you kind of have a source that you continue to go back to. So it doesn't have to be such a formal engagement. But the other thing, especially for people who are working inside of a company, is to find a sponsor, somebody who could be an advocate for you and sit in meetings and help, represent what it is that you want and how where you're trying to take your career, which goes back to, again, self-awareness. You need to know what it is that you want, right? Where do you want to go? And then finding people internally to be an advocate for you to help you get to that next level. And I think one of the what I've seen, I mean, imposter syndrome, I think for sure resonates as well with, and I think women have this more. I can't remember what the stat is, but women have this significantly more than men. I mean, what was the stat about applying for jobs? Men will look at a job description and say, well, I have about 60% of that qualification. I'm going to go ahead and apply. Women will say, well, I need to have 100% of those qualifications. I'm not ready. I'm not going to apply yet. Right. And so it's like we're always holding back a little bit. And so I think finding opportunities where we can be outside the box, challenge ourselves a little bit, do something that scares us, whether that's appearing on a podcast or public speaking or taking on a stretch project or going to present to, a CEO or something that maybe is outside of your normal day-to-day. That kind of helps us grow in our confidence and to get exposure to different things where we can look back and say, yeah, I actually do know what I'm doing. I do know what I'm doing. And the other thing that I love to always recommend is like that reinforcement, celebrate those wins. And so when you're doing something that's scary and you did your first, public speech or your first podcast, or you published your first blog or social media, or you hit certain milestones within your company, to rather just move on. I think we tend to move on to the next thing, like, okay, check that off the list. Now we're moving on to the next milestone, but to really pause and to celebrate that success, because it reinforces that yes, we are doing what we were here to do, and that we do know what we're doing, we do know what we're talking about, and that this is just a little proof point, in your brag book that you can go back to help you feel like, okay, especially in those situations where you're feeling like a fraud, that it's like, wait a minute, no, I have proof points that I'm not. So,
Well, I think celebration is so vital because it builds a reserve when the headwind is going to be coming at you again, right? And after a while, I believe success is purely an attitude, right? Once you have that attitude of confidence, of success, you also don't have to cheat at that point, right? If you know you're qualified, if you know you're proficient, if you know you're up to whatever you do, things become a labor of love, and you don't want to ruin it by putting something inauthentic, cheating someone, that they'll never know, but you'll never forget. And who are you at the end of the day when you put your head on your pillow? Because whoever you're with, you always come home to yourself, right? You always have to be with yourself. And is that the self you admire? Because if you don't admire you, it will project to other people.
mhm.
The worst thing you can do with not being credible is being the opposite. And once people see through you, then it's over. Everything you ever did, everything you built with them just gets diminished and the experience goes away. And I think life is an experience, it's not a result, right? No matter what your result is, the next day the game starts again. You can't take
Mhm.
yesterday's win into the future, but you also can't take or shouldn't take yesterday's loss into the future. Every day is a fresh day, and yesterday doesn't have to define or determine tomorrow. And the people you've been with may not have really understood or appreciated you enough, and that's where you're getting your feedback. So if you get in front of a friendly audience, an audience that everybody believes, that everybody's going through something or has gone through something or will be going through something or has somebody close going through something, how do we all be better for each other? And that's the hard part, even on large platforms like LinkedIn, because there's so much loudness, disrespect, salesy stuff, scammy stuff. I mean, they come out of everywhere and they think up ideas on how to do these things, just like we come up with ideas on how to do better. So it's constant, and until you can steal away to an island in the sun with 30, 40 people like we do every day, and the same people show up for the same people and by the same people, and everybody incrementally gets a little bit better every day because it's easy to take a morsel, read a page, listen to a good saying or a quote. Let me come back to our lovely audience. Debbie Clemens here, our butterfly lady. She does so much for the monarch migration to Mexico. And I saw your latest post, Debbie, where
Yeah, wonderful.
dressed up as a butterfly with all the little kids around you, and you teach so much. Natalie is thanking
That
us for a great conversation. Always good to see you. Lorraine, can't wait to get Lorraine back. To me, credibility is the cornerstone of trust and reliability, and it is something to celebrate, right? It's something that you can be proud of. So sometimes when you don't have the tangibles, start looking at the intangibles you're growing, right? How much can you care? How much credibility muscle can you exercise? You set the game up every day. You schedule your time. You schedule your people. Where are you not scheduled? Where are you scheduled in the wrong places with the wrong people, and what serves you and what doesn't? So taking initiative, being proactive really makes a difference. Loving this conversation. No surprise. Kelly's coming back actually tomorrow with Dave Snell. I love that. Give what people want, Lorraine says. Lorraine's getting into the conversation,
she is. Yeah.
not logic. We covered Dennis real quick. Debbie says passion and authenticity. Coming back with Dennis, people are loyal to the brand and may not want to pass. Okay. Dennis talking about showing. Agree now is a power hour. Thanks for still sharing and caring your thoughts. Lorraine says imposter syndrome. I think everyone goes through that at some time in their career. Kathy, great to see you. Success is purely an attitude. Debbie, I've built a career on baby steps and absolutely celebrating that micro progress daily, authenticity. Lorraine, good reminder to celebrate success. When I succeed, I always want to go on to the next thing. Crazy, huh? Not really. Lovely words of wisdom, Betty says, and kind of finishing up here for thanks for reminding us to stay with a friendly work family group. Teamwork still works. Well, sounds great. Back to Stacey, or is it Beverly? I think it's Stacey.
Beverly. Okay.
Beverly. Okay, sorry. There's so much going on, so many names. Beverly.
Okay. Well, there's so much. Yes, there's so much going on. I'd like to speak to celebrate the wins because, as Lorraine said, and as we were all saying, yes, we do move on to the next thing really quickly. And we always criticize ourselves. We are the worst judges of us. And I'm thinking of a doctor who's a client who was now selling, and this guy's a doctor and a PhD, and he was selling to startups. And the way he was doing this is he was presenting this product that he had put together and researched for years, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a physician, and he's talking to numerous other physicians, and these are serious people, right? And there was serious money behind this. And as he was talking and giving his speech with all the stats and giving them everything they want to know, he talked about his father. This happened to do with the pain medication. And he talked about what his father went through, and he broke into tears. And he came back to me and he said, Beverly, I ruined the entire presentation. I know I did. And he said, but everybody came to me and they were all talking to me. And he says, yes, we understand, et cetera, et cetera. And surprisingly, people were more and more interested because he was real. And he had no intention. I mean, he's always real, but not really the way he was, right? This was his speech. And so very often we as judges of ourselves feel that we should be doing things a certain way. And often it doesn't come out like that. Like a little thing just today, trying to get on this show and restream, and me and my camera did not work, right? Mistake, problem, right? The same thing here, you go on with it. And did he judge himself? Oh, yes. Was he really a success with that flub? Believe me, he was. And he did not expect that. And I can assure you, people remember you when you're authentic, when you're credible, and not when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, like standing on the podium and giving the speech like everyone else is, right? Not that he's going to do this again in the next presentation, trust me. However, the feeling that you are also a person and you're selling to people, and people are judging you, but they want to judge you as a person too. They want to get to know, like, and trust you, not just buy whatever you're selling. And that's just my thought. And so, who's next?
Okay, well, I'm sure it's Stacey now. And I just want to have Stacey, I know you've got a couple books. Be happy to have you share what your books are and what they're about.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yes. So I love this conversation. I actually created a little mini power book called Look Inside, The Real Reason You're Not Winning the Marketing Game. It's like a 20-minute read. It's on Amazon, and I specifically wrote it for entrepreneurs, for business owners, for CEOs, that to give a little framework that I call the A3 method of how to better create authentic experiences and grow the business. And so the A3 is, the first A is alignment. So this is all about aligning to what it is that customers want and need, aligning to your company goals and making sure that those are really clear. It's surprising. A lot of companies think that they have a goal. They've never communicated past, their own head or their own piece of paper. So this is about writing it down and really declaring that. And then really aligning specifically for the marketing and sales function, how to work together and how there's this handoff, right? And that customers don't really care who behind the scenes, if it's the customer service department or the sales department or the marketing department or the operations department, they just want to see sort of one face to that brand. So that's alignment. The second piece is accountability, and that's how to create a plan and focus where it's quality over quantity, and it's about choosing those 2 or 3 levers that are really going to make the biggest difference, and being accountable to that plan. And then the third is acceleration, which is where everybody wants to start. Let's just get into it and let's start to grow the business. But you can't have the acceleration unless you do the first 2 pieces. And so the acceleration is about making those little, big and small tweaks to help kind of catapult and grow exponentially at the next level to accelerate that growth. So that book is, I think it's $4.99 on Amazon. It's a super quick read, and gives a little framework, for any business owner that's running a business. And then the other book is really specifically to marketers and salespeople, called Standout Marketing. And that one is basically, we did a bunch of research to figure out what are the top core competencies that marketing and sales professionals need to have to help their organizations stand out. I mentioned that we did a bunch of research about the sea of sameness and how everybody's kind of copying and pasting each other. And what we found is that there are several reasons that this is so prevalent of a practice. And it doesn't matter what the industry is. We looked at several different industries. And you could take any industry and go look at, 12 or 15 or 20 top competitors, and you'll see that there's, we tend to kind of just follow the herd within the industry. And so what we found was that it was really a competency gap, that it's not that people don't know what to do. There's a million different little trainings about how to do that, but it's more about the skill set of how, and that there's these pieces that it's really hard. Like, I'm sure you've probably seen the stat that, I think it was McKinsey, that said 70% of change initiatives fail due to lack of buy-in. And so it's a lack of alignment, it's a lack of buy-in. People don't know what they're supposed to be doing, and really that is the core issue. And it's learning, especially as a marketer or somebody running a company, like, how do you actually create that buy-in? How do you get everybody moving toward the same direction and the same goal? So we broke it down into 5 core skill sets that spell the word value. It's an acronym. And so that's all in the Standout Marketing book. So if you have a marketer in your life or a salesperson in your life, or you're trying to grow a company and have a need to hire marketing people, that's really who the book is for.
Well, that sounds great. Beverly, if there's anything you'd like to share.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, if you go on my profile and you want to talk to me, you can always schedule a free 15-minute conversation. I'm also doing a free workshop, which is going to be coming up in November. And that also goes with the courses that I do, which is really from the very basic. It's like, I also have an acronym for this, but what it is, it's own it, close it, stop it. And then there's the E, embrace it, believe it, and then create it. So what you're doing is you're building yourself up. And it's literally a reinvention formula, and it's quick and it's easy and it moves you on in 12 weeks. And I tell you, it's wonderful, but you don't have to ask me. You'll have to ask my clients, and they'll also say they're laughing all the way, and they are changing and they are empowering themselves. And guess what? I sound now like a real marketer, but you never go back, because once you start really believing who you really are and stand in your superpower, if you will, you don't go back. That's who you are. And so it's not magic. It just happens. And so, yeah, that's coming up soon. And I'm looking forward to opening up that new group.
Well, I think, this is so apropos for the hour of Empower, because we're empowering people to be who they can be, not who they're not, which would be a credibility issue. But there's greatness in everybody in some way or another. It just needs to be brought up, empowered. And sometimes we always say, if you can't do it, could we do it? Right? And some people need a little help, and everybody deserves a little help. But everybody has to take responsibility for at least raising their hand and saying, I could use this, or I need this, and do it in the most respectful way that someone feels like it's honored to be able to help you, right? Because there's goodness in humanity. You know, people weren't built for 20 cars and 30 houses, you know? And if anything, things that were supposed to save us time became time sucks, right? Before you know it, you're playing this game, watching that video, and all of a sudden friends are walking by you and you don't see them. You're sitting at dinner and forget what you ate, you know? So being aware, being conscious, being in the moment, being with yourself, having quiet time with yourself, private time with yourself, in order to truly understand what is going on. Because if there's so much going on and it's going so fast, that's a clue to slow down, right? And give yourself a chance to digest what's happening. Too many people are reacting instead of responding. They're on a flight that they can't stop in most cases because it's nonstop, you know? And I think you miss life, even if you're successful at one part of it. If you're not successful at all parts of it, you're not successful, right? You're coming up short and long in places when balance should be the key, and having more time, you know, than less. So with that said, final thoughts, Stacey, first time on the show. How do you leave it?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Thank you for having me. This is a topic, like I said, that's near and dear to my heart, specifically for women, and just, you know, marketing being in that position where they're constantly bombarded with other people's opinions all day long. And so I think this was a great conversation. I loved hearing both of your perspectives. So thank you for sharing that. I would love to just offer to connect with anybody. I, like I said, work with a lot of women to help build confidence and credibility and influence. And so, you know, doing that in an authentic way, whether that's their personal brand or their company brand. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, Stacey, and you're a perfect pair for Beverly, and that's why I
Yeah, that was great.
put this together.
Wonderful.
You're on the same
Great,
road,
Stacey.
doing about the same things for the right reasons. So Beverly can never get too much Beverly.
Thank you, Donald. First, of course, I want to thank you, Donald. I love being on this show, and the audience, as usual, is just so wonderful. And everyone's here, and we call it a family, and it really is, because people keep showing up, and we get new extensions to the family, which is wonderful. And everyone, please, by all means, feel comfortable to be able to reach me, talk to me, when we can tweak exactly where you're stuck and where you can move on, and how easily it is to move on, because we get stuck in our own heads, you know, and we start spinning our own movies and our own stories, and we can get unstuck very easily. And uh, just parting words, there's no one better than you. Seriously, seriously, own it.
Well, you take that to the bank. Thank you, Beverly. I want to thank everybody. This has been another wonderful hour of Empower. You never know what people are going to say, but that's the beauty of being authentic and credible, is being with the moment, responding, you know, in a way that shows who you are instead of having to tell people who you are, right? Let them have the surprise. Too many people tell everybody who they are, and that's who they'll always be to that person, when they could have been so much more in so many different ways, you know. And that's where the platinum rule is so important. Everybody at best doesn't even practice the golden rule, which is do unto others as you want done unto yourself, but do unto others as they want done unto themselves, and honor them. And then you'll get more appreciation and respect, and hopefully collaboration continues to continue. So with that said, come back tomorrow, 23 hours. We've got Kelly and Dave Snell, and it only gets better from there. So thank you again.
Okay. All right. Thank
Bye.
you.
Good day.
Okay.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.